everyone, and welcome to the Meet the Expert show. I'm Dori Soukup, your host and founder of InSPAration Management. With me today is my very special guest, Sarah Shikhman. She's a leading attorney, and together we are going to discuss how to open and run a medical spa or medical aesthetics practice legally and successfully. We literally have hundreds of you who are joining us today. We are live on many platforms. We are shooting live from our studios right here in Daytona Beach in our corporate headquarters. And we are inviting all of you to submit questions that Sarah and I both can answer for you. Now, we already taken some questions that we are going to be answering already, but if you have more, feel free to submit them on whatever platform you are joining us on. Let me start by introducing Sarah, and then we'll dive right in. Sarah Shikhman is a leading attorney with Lengea Law firm in New York City. They help people open, run, manage spas, and they also help sell any medical aesthetics practice. They also work with dental offices, IV, fusion centers, and all sorts of other medical professional companies. So I am so excited to have her here with me today. She is also an author. She has a book called Med Spa Confidential, and you can find it on Amazon. If you'd like to get a copy, I recommend that you do. Now, some of you may be new to our community. Again, I am the founder of InSPAration Management and also an author, and I'd like to offer anybody who does not have my book yet, Medical Aesthetics Success, a copy of my book. All you have to do is go to InSPArationManagement.com and you can receive a complimentary copy. So welcome, and let's go ahead and get started. Sarah, I am so excited to have you here with us.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here. I can't wait to get started and answer your questions and see what questions people have for us today.
Yeah, very excited. Let's start. I would like to actually break up our time together today between brand new practices and maybe ones that are already existing. So let's start with somebody who's just getting started and maybe thinking about a medical aesthetics practice. So can you guide us through some legal essentials that they need to go through as a first step in thinking about venturing into the medical aesthetics arena?
Yeah, definitely. When someone's thinking about starting a medical aesthetics practice, there are kind of three key questions that they should think about. One is, how does the ownership of the practice have to be structured? Two is, who can do what in this practice? And three, what are my long-term goals for this practice? Am I building this to be a big chain of practices, a one big location, a favorite part-time activity for me? And those three things really guide the decisions as to what happens next. And the state regulations are really different in terms of who can own a medical aesthetics practice. In some states, you need a structure called an MSO. In some states, you don't. In some states, an RN can, for example, inject Botox, and in some states, he or she cannot. In some states, you need to have malpractice insurance, and there are actually some states where you do not. So the laws really vary state by state, but the first three questions are really, how do I structure the ownership, who can do what, and what's my long-term vision?
There are so many different laws, like you mentioned. Every state is a little bit different. It's like the wild, wild west. We have some estheticians that are injecting in some states, and it's just unbelievable to me that owners are allowing that to happen. What do you do with someone when you find out that's what's happening in their place?
Oh, that's a great question. I think that sometimes what happens is people get started, and a lot of people start small, which is great. And then as the practice grows and people kind of get new clients and get new locations and get new providers, practices don't really update how compliant they are as they get bigger. So I think when you're small, you could sometimes fly under the radar, but that really has to stop when you're hiring your first full-time provider or you're opening your second location. And what happens is you're taking on a ton of liability when you're operating non-compliantly, and it becomes like hard to sleep at night. And knowing that at any moment, if you have an unhappy patient, an unhappy employee, or just a competitor who reports you could lose everything. And I don't think it's worth it. It's so much cheaper to just be compliant from the beginning.
Yes, especially if you let someone go, you have a disgruntled employee, all they have to do is go say one thing and you're basically out of business. It's a big risk, I think, that people should avoid. So to me, the very first step is definitely consult with an attorney and also a business advisor, both ways, to truly understand what they're actually getting into, because a lot of people think it's such a sexy business to get into. Let me just go rent a room or open up a place and hang my shingle and I'm all set.
Yeah, definitely. I think from a business perspective, I mean, what do you think? What are some of the tips you have for people when they're starting out? What must they know or what must they do from a business perspective starting this kind of thing?
Yeah, that's a great point to bring up as well, and that is a business plan. And we see so many people actually get started without knowing exactly what they are getting into financially. So having those financial plans, having the vision of what it is that they're trying to do, decide on the type of menu. Are you going to be offering laser treatments? Are you not? All the things, like how are you going to generate revenue for your business? That's so important. And what marketing, what positioning are you going to be able to invest in? And whether you are already in business or actually just starting out, I think doing an annual business plan is a very smart strategy to continue growth and to also get you started. And those are sometimes things that we find missing often when we start working with people like you, Sarah. So it's very important to plan. I think that's key.
Definitely.
Yeah. So let me ask you, we get this question all the time from a legal aspect. What agreements should a medical spa, almost like a checklist of all the different agreements that they need to actually get them started and cross all the T's and dot all the I's and do it legally?
Great question. And the answer to it really depends on the state that people are forming their business in and also what services they're going to do. So for example, let's use New York as an example. So in New York, if they are not a physician, then most likely they're going to need what's called a management services agreement. Mm-hmm. They're going to need a medical director supervision agreement. Mm-hmm. They're going to need some agreements between providers and the practice. They're going to need a set of protocols to keep on file in the office. They're going to probably need an appearance enhancement license establishment from the Board of Cosmetology and a couple of other things. Whereas, let's say they're opening up a practice in Florida, they're going to need pretty different documents. And then if they're opening in California, they're going to need also pretty different documents. So it's really a state-specific thing. But the basic, like if you're going to just start with one agreement, in most states, that would be what's called a MSO-MSA agreement, which is the agreement that governs the relationship between the non-physician's company and the overseeing physician's company.
And I think that's where a lot of people, we get a lot of those questions, is how easy is that to set up? What does it cost to really set something like this up? And how successful are really those relationships once they are set up?
Yeah, and those relationships are complicated. You know, I think one of the key things is finding a good medical director and making sure you have a good contract with your medical director that protects you and protects them and gives you some flexibility. And I think your company is one of the companies that helps people find medical directors, right, if they don't have one. So maybe, I guess you could talk a little bit about that, right?
Yes. We just connected a couple in Daytona Beach and Orlando. They have just opened a brand new medical spa and they were looking for a medical director, and we try as much as possible. We run a membership model in our business, and we have a private Facebook page for all of our members, so they can also go on there and see who would be interested in becoming a medical director for someone else. But then again, they need you, Sarah, because they need to make that arrangement work and be legal. And that's something that we definitely do not do that process at all, nor do I want to, because that's your field, right? But it's just very interesting to see how many people play the role of medical director, but without having different agreements like this, without having an MSO. Is an MSO definitely necessary to be a medical director, or can they just be a medical director without that process?
Good question. So in Florida, for example, an MSO is not necessary, or in Ohio, an MSO is not necessary. But in about 30 states, an MSO is absolutely necessary to be a medical director. So you cannot just hire a medical director from your LLC in states like New York or Texas or California. So in those states, absolutely, you need an MSO, and it can't just be a contract that you downloaded from the internet, because it's not going to be specific to your situation. And usually having a contract that's not specific, that's kind of wrong for your situation, is worse than not having one at all, because it could have things there that you're subjecting yourself to that you wouldn't want to be subjected to. Right. So yeah, definitely that contract is really, really important. And it's also important if it comes down to if your practice gets sued. One of the things that happens is your insurance company most of the time has a clause in the contract that says if your company is not formed correctly, then the insurance company denies coverage. So even though you've been paying for malpractice insurance and you think everything is fine, the company may say, hey, we're not covering this claim because, hey, one of the exclusion criteria, or one of the clauses in here is you had to have been operating compliantly and be correctly set up.
Yes. That's why I think a regular consumer should definitely reach out to someone that understands the different legal situations in every state. Do you think it'll ever happen, Sarah, where we can have a federal law for medical spas?
I don't. So I think just healthcare in the U.S. in general is so state specific, and insurance laws are state specific as well. So that whole regulatory scheme is just from the beginning of time has been really state specific. So I don't see it being a federal issue at any time in our lifetimes anyway.
Okay.
But I think the federal government does get involved in some situations, like the illegal importing of Botox, for example, where the DEA gets involved. So there are some federal laws too, but most of the who can do what and who can own what is definitely state specific.
Yeah, it'll probably, like you said, will stay that way. Let's talk a little bit about marketing and HIPAA laws and how they interact and some of the things. We get questions like this all the time. Of course, we teach marketing and we believe in truly positioning your place and attract the right clientele and do a lot of marketing. But then there is that legal aspect. Can you share with us maybe some mistakes to avoid when it comes to marketing and do it legally?
Definitely. Some mistakes related to marketing have to do with making promises to people and also using trade names that are not yours. So, for example, a lot of times in marketing materials or in patient consents or on somebody's website, you may talk about Botox, and that's wonderful. But if in actuality the product that you're injecting is Dysport, for example, then what you're doing and what you're advertising is two different things. Mm-hmm. Or if, let's say on your website, you say something like Botox is a safe and effective treatment for wrinkles, you're in essence making a promise to a client that this product is 100% safe and 100% effective. And in fact, sometimes adverse events do happen. So it's good to have your advertising on your website and your terms of use reviewed by a lawyer, because you don't want to make these promises that customers will hold you to. So even if you have a consent later for Botox where it talks about, Botox can have different side effects and sometimes it's dangerous. If on your website you're making promises, it's not great. And even just today or a few days ago, companies are getting upset because if you're using their trade names in advertising, like Wegovy, for example, but in essence you're the product that you're actually selling or injecting is the generic, which is semaglutide, you're really not allowed to do that. And then the companies can sue you. So you just have to be very careful about what you say in your marketing and what kind of promises you make.
Mm-hmm. What about consent forms? If somebody wants to use before and after pictures and also doing different treatments within their facility, I get this question all the time. Do I need separate consent forms for every single treatment that we offer? Or can they have one general consent form and then maybe a release form for their use of before and after pictures? So maybe we can talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, definitely. The key to consent is it has to be informed. So what informed consent means is that a reasonable person, when looking at that paper, has to be able to understand what it means and what risks you're signing up for and what the alternatives are, and that you don't have to do this treatment today. So in this case, if you're doing one general consent, then in that one general consent, you would have the 1 million different possible side effects for everything from cool sculpting to Botox to semaglutide to fillers. And as a customer, even a very highly educated customer, you may be pretty confused about, okay, like, is vascular occlusion a possible side effect of Botox? Or is that a filler? Or what's my alternative? Can I use Sculptra in this place? Or so I don't think that it's possible to get true informed consent if you just have one consent form for all of your procedures. I think a reasonable person would get very confused about what the risks are and what they're signing. So it's much better to have separate consents. And what you can do is maybe do one for like Botox and filler together, because they're very common together, and have two separate sections in your consent that make it clear which one is for which. But even then, it could be a little bit confusing. So I think definitely separate consents is the way to go.
Okay. And what about release forms for usage of their images? Do you see any problems with any of those forms that maybe were not good enough? Or what are some of the essential things they need to include in that authorization form, release form?
Yeah, good question. So a lot of times for release forms for using images on social media, you should list what social media you are going to put the images on and for how long, and do you have the right to edit the images or crop the images or add words to the images. So you want to make that consent very, very detailed as possible, because otherwise people have claimed a lot of times what happens in these situations is somebody signs this consent, they're very happy with their treatment, maybe they got $100 off or they were in a really good mood right after, and then 2 days later they change their mind, but they already signed their consent. So in this case, you want to make sure that your consent is ironclad and that it talks about all the possible uses that you're going to use this image in video, in training, internally, externally. So there are a lot of possible issues, and finding a consent online that's 2 paragraphs long usually is not going to be enough, unfortunately.
Yeah. And do you provide clients with all these forms?
We do. Just like you, we have a membership program where basically people have access to a bunch of different forms as part of their retainer payment with us. Nice. So they prepay for a couple of legal hours, and with that, they get lots of different forms, everything from consents to protocols to different forms of contracts like employment agreements. So we have that as part of the package, and a lot of our clients use it, and it's awesome. And sometimes when we do what we call a compliance audit, people come in with their own forms, and we just help them replace what they're using with something that's a little more comprehensive.
Yeah, very nice. That's a great service. I love membership models. As a matter of fact, that's one of the biggest mistakes we see when someone first reaches out to us as far as their business is concerned, is the lack of that nice recurring revenue model. So one of the first things we teach them how to do is how to implement one. And that way they can have that nice income coming in on a monthly basis. It's probably one of my favorite things to teach, because it's just such a nice business guarantee, revenue stream guarantee, no matter what business disruption they can have, they still have that nice revenue stream coming in. So we absolutely love that. So congratulations on doing that also for your clients, because it's a great value that they would actually receive. So great to hear that you're doing that, Sarah.
Thank you. Yeah, I think memberships are great, and the fact that you teach people how to do them is amazing. I think, when I was working in a med spa, the memberships were really the key to the steady revenue that we had, and really exposing our clients through the membership program to a lot of the different treatments the spa offered.
Yeah.
So I think without the recurring revenue of memberships, also when we are helping clients sell their practices, the value of the practice is less than if they had the recurring revenue of membership. So you're setting up these people to be valued more when it comes time to sell their practice, which is pretty awesome for them.
Yeah, that's a great point. Great point. Do you see a lot of people wanting to sell today, or do you see more people opening than selling?
I see a lot of both. I mean, I see a lot of people opening up new practices. I see a ton of private equity clients that we have coming into us saying, do you know anybody selling in this criteria, in this size, in this geographical area? And then we have some practice owners who want to sell. A lot of the people who want to sell are just looking for a change in lifestyle. They want to retire. They want to do something else. They want to cash out on the hard work that they've been doing.
Yes.
But there's tremendous interest from private equity in trying to buy practices. I mean, we're always looking to match different practices with some of the private equity clients we have. I mean, I think the demand for practices to be bought is more than the supply of good practices available today.
Yes, and like you, I get emails from private equity firms all the time because they find us on either LinkedIn or YouTube or online somewhere, and they know that we work with so many medical spas, so they're always reaching out to us. We've had so many different offers from several of them. It's very interesting. They want to try to come in and take over the industry now. It seems like there's such high interest of them doing roll-ups and finding a lot of different medical spas to put together as a deal. So it's interesting. What do you think is gonna happen with all that interest from that side, from the private equity firms?
I think there'll be some consolidation for sure. I think probably right now we have, let's say, 3 to 5 really big players, right? Like the laser ways of aesthetics, but we don't have many. I think we'll have maybe 10 or 20 really major players all competing with each other in the next probably 5 to 10 years.
Yeah.
So right now, everyone is trying to get to 10, 20, 30 locations. I mean, we probably have, I would say, at least 20 clients who are trying to go to that 20 plus location stage right now. And I think it'll be interesting to see which of those people are the most successful and what the exits look like. I mean, I'm seeing some really fascinating and kind of crazy numbers sometimes where I see people selling a small practice, like one location, for close to $1 million, where maybe the revenue of that practice is even way less than that. So it's interesting out there.
Yeah. Well, one of the things I found in speaking with several of them is they want to buy practices that are generating more than $1 million. The average med spa right now does about 1.2 million a year. And the people I was speaking with were not interested in that small of a revenue. They want practices that are doing 2, 3, 4, or 5 million. Those are the ones that they really want. And actually, that's what I tell our clients all the time. Sometimes people are happy generating just $1 million in business. At the end of the day, that is average. Like, who wants to be average? So our whole goal is to take them from that million to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5. Then they appeal a lot better to people like the private equity firms, or anytime you try to help to sell them, now they have much better value. So it's interesting, though. I love your input on what you're thinking would happen in the next 10 to 15 years. It's very interesting. So, what do you think are some of the biggest legal mistakes that you see with someone, whether they're just opening or they're already in business? Maybe certain situations that our listeners or our viewers can avoid.
Yeah, I think the biggest legal mistakes are keeping problem employees and also treating problem clients and treating in areas that should not have been treated. We deal a lot with if there was an adverse event or if there's an employee issue, and a lot of it really has to do with if someone's from the employee side. I find that if someone's really like not a good fit for your team, you have that, you know, early on that this is what's happening. So it's on you to document that, to give those people a chance to improve, but also to let them know that there's an issue. So you have to give people performance warnings. You have no documentation at the time that you're letting somebody go. You're exposing yourself to a lot of liability. And at the same time, if you keep someone around who is just doesn't have a good attitude, it's like a cancer for your whole practice. And it spreads very quickly.
Yes.
So I think it's better to just let people go early if it's not working out. And at the same time, but that's like from the people perspective.
Yeah.
And then from the client perspective, we all have been in the situation where you get a client and right away you notice like something is a little bit off, and they told you about how they went to 5 other practices and they were not happy, but they're so happy today that they're in your office and you're going to cure all of their problems. And you're like, yes, of course, I will be your miracle worker. Except like a month later, they're going to be like, I want a refund for everything that you've done because now I'm unhappy for reason X or Y. So I think a lot of it has to do with patient selection and thinking about, okay, what are the kind of patients I'm just not going to treat? And the other thing is not having like good or clear SOPs that your staff follows and that you follow yourself. So for example, people will come in and they'll say things like, you know, at my last practice, they would always do voluma in my forehead. And you know that probably that's not something that you want to do. But you're hearing from this person that this is what they've had before, and you're thinking, well, you know, I could make an extra $2,000 right now if I do this. It's only going to take me 15 minutes. The thing is, because of how dangerous something like that could be, it's probably not worth it. And if you were to have SOPs in place that talk about this, that say, we don't do filler in the forehead, it would be much better for your practice should anything go wrong. And then all your staff will know that there are just certain things you don't do. So those are just some of the things that we see.
Yeah, and now you're singing my song. We see that all the time, and that's really why we exist, Sarah. We have an entire platform called Med Spa Biz University, where an owner has every single system, structure, strategy, videos, audios, manuals, everything that they need in order to run a place successfully. But we see that so much, like they don't have any training manuals at all. They just wing it. I call it the wing it business model. And right? So it's so important to really have that structure. And you know what? Employees love it, because if an employee comes in and they don't know what to do, they have no clear expectations, no goals, no training manuals, then they're set up for failure instead of success. And that's what we help them avoid, which is so important. I think you definitely hit the nail on the head. We call it fire fast and hire slow, right?
Yeah. I mean, and it's hard to do. I mean, I get it, you know, because we get into a bind, right? I've been there myself. Like, you're working at a practice, your books are full. You're like, oh my God, I need a new injector tomorrow. I heard, okay, this other person is great, I'm going to interview them very quickly. Let's have them start on Monday.
Yeah.
Not, and then your lawyer gets involved when you have to terminate them, a month later. So
Yeah.
not
Yeah, you have to be
ideal. I
careful.
think the services that you guys provide, where you help people have really good job descriptions and performance benchmarks, they're really key. People need to know, what are they working toward? Like, what's a good job?
Exactly.
If they don't know, how could you know what standard to hold them to? How could you
Exactly.
get mad at someone for not doing their job? They don't know what their job is.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, let's take some questions from our audience. I understand my team is telling me there's a lot of questions coming in. So let's go ahead and take some. I have Julia who's helping here. Go ahead.
Yeah, so Dori, will you please re-hold up the books that you mentioned at the beginning?
Oh, both of our books.
And tell us a little bit about the books.
So Sarah has a book called Med Spa Confidential. Do you want to tell them a little bit about your book, Sarah?
Yeah, definitely. So before starting this law firm a few years ago, I was running a big aesthetics practice. And through that experience, I learned a lot about the business side of starting a practice and what that's like. And the book is a little bit about how to start a practice from the business side in a basic way, and also how to start a practice from the legal side and this whole thing about MSOs. So the book is, I would say, 50% that, and 50% my collaborating author, Dr. Carol Clinton, who's an awesome physician in Columbus, Ohio. Her story about how she built her practice and sold her practice for multiple millions of dollars. So it's a book about building a practice from the ground up and selling it.
Which I love. That's why we all go into business, is to build it and then sell it so you can have the freedom that you want. So congratulations on that. So my book is called Medical Aesthetics Success. The subtitle is Your Business in the Black, because it contains many strategies that you can implement within your business so your business can be super profitable. And again, you can go to medicalaestheticssuccess.com or InSPArationmanagement.com and get it. And you can also watch it if you like. We've been doing a book gathering show. So if you go to the YouTube channel of InSPAration Management's YouTube channel, you'll be able to see so many, hundreds of videos actually, to help you with your business, and as well as seeing the book chapter by chapter where we discuss it and talk about it. So if you are the kind of person that does not have time to read, you can either listen to it or read it, either way. So yeah.
And Dori, this doctor is interested in writing a book and wants to know more about the book writing seminar that we offer.
So the book become published. Actually, when we were talking about marketing and Sarah was sharing some of the marketing things, one of the things we see all the time, Sarah and everyone that's with us, is a lot of medical spas are playing price war games. Everybody's competing on price instead of expertise. Well, that's not a philosophy that we believe in. We believe in raising your prices and accommodate the consumers who are affluent, because there's nothing cheap in a medical spa. So you want to attract the people that can afford you. And how you're able to do that is all through your positioning, your own positioning as well as your facilities positioning. So we highly believe in content marketing, because the more you show your expertise, the better off you are. Just like when you hear someone like Sarah has a book, what did you think right away when Sarah has her name on a book? Immediately that elevates her positioning. Same with us. So one thing we teach our clients to do is to become published authors. It's one of the most important marketing strategies I think anyone can practice. So it's so important, and we believe in it so highly that we do have a website you can go to. It's called becomepublished.com, and you can join us for a 2-day seminar, and we literally help you write a book in a couple of days. As a matter of fact, I was just talking with Dr. Yumera today. She's one of our members from Georgia. She's about to publish her book, and it's going to be amazing. And those are the things that we can definitely help people do. Improve your positioning and attract people to you instead of spending thousands and thousands of dollars on marketing that sometimes does not pay off. So that's how we help with that. Thank you for your question.
Yeah, and we have Connie, and she's asking, Sarah and Dori, do you offer services all around the United States or only to specific states?
Sarah, you want to take that first?
Yeah, we do. And what we do is we hire a local counsel in the states where we need local counsel. We don't have someone on our team licensed, but we have a pretty large team now. So we're licensed as attorneys in many states already. But yeah, we can help people in pretty much every state.
Nice. And same for us. We have clients all over the country. We also have some clients internationally. So the nice thing about what we do is having MedSpa Biz University is an online platform, and we do live events where people can come, but literally everything that we do now is shot right here in our studio in Daytona, and we publish all of our videos right here, and they go online for everybody to see and learn from.
I have Maya, and she says, I live in Texas and own my med spa in Texas. You guys were talking about memberships. Is it okay to offer a membership in Texas and all states, or is it state specific?
Yeah.
And Dori, how can you help me set up my membership for my med spa?
Okay. So part of the business model gives you the freedom to really offer memberships no matter which state you are operating out of. So that's not really a legal issue at all. Having a membership model, as long as you have authorization to withdraw money or to pay you on a credit card every single month, then you're perfectly legal. As far as how we help you set up a membership program, you can go to our YouTube channel and you'll be able to see some videos there. We teach what we call the copy system, and literally we can take you step by step on how to set up your membership model. You can always set up a success planning session with one of my team members, and they can also help give you an overview. But you can also go on our shop on InSPArationManagement.com, and we have it as an a la carte product. Or if you're a member with us, you have access to it totally free. So it really depends on where you are in our community, but we'll be more than happy to show you the way. You should do it. Definitely
Absolutely.
need a membership model. Yes.
And then I have Jessica here, and she's saying, I am a nurse practitioner in New Jersey. Do I still need a medical director, Sarah?
She does. She does. So in New Jersey, it's because of two reasons. One, nurse practitioners in New Jersey do not have full practice authority. And two, New Jersey prohibits the corporate practice of medicine. So in New Jersey, she needs a medical director, and it should be through an MSO structure.
Or she can move to New York.
Yes, she can move to New York, get her New York NP license, get 3,600 practice hours as a New York NP, and then she does not need a medical director.
Isn't that crazy? And they are like right next. You can't even differentiate the two. Like New York, New Jersey. Any other questions?
This one's for Sarah. Are estheticians able to perform more aggressive procedures like CO2 laser or radiofrequency with microneedling or combo treatments? And if so, which states is this allowed?
Yeah, in most states, 95% of states, estheticians cannot do those treatments. And even in the states where they are allowed, and they're very few, there are some very strict guidelines about what has to be in place for estheticians to do that. Generally speaking, it's pretty dangerous to do a lot of these treatments, and so there are a lot of oversight requirements and things like that about having a medical director, having that MSO structure in place. So even in the states where an esthetician could do that in their scope of practice, they still would need to do it under a medical director. They would likely need that MSO structure. And sometimes what happens is insurance-wise, it's hard or very expensive to get coverage for those treatments when performed by an esthetician. So just make sure if you're an esthetician doing those treatments, on your insurance application that you make it clear what your credentials are to make sure that everything is correct. Otherwise, what happens is even if you're paying for insurance and you think you're covered, if it was in any way vague that you're an esthetician on the application, they may not cover you if there's an adverse event.
Yeah. Better be safe than sorry, right?
Yeah, and a lot of the malpractice issues that we have seen have to do with lasers, because with laser procedures, if someone gets a burn, for example, it's hard to correct. It's not like Botox where it just goes away after some time, or filler where we can dissolve it with Hylenex, most of the time anyway. With lasers, sometimes the damage is permanent, sometimes it's someone's face or their chin or their leg, and then it becomes a problem. So when there's an esthetician doing it, it's that much harder to win a lawsuit.
Better be safe. Exactly.
And then multiple people are asking, if you're an NP in Florida, do you need an MD?
You do. So in Florida, there's a special rule that says even if you're a full practice authority NP, you still need a medical director, and there are some requirements about them being a board eligible or board certified plastic surgeon or dermatologist, or that being their primary place of practice, and then some requirements about how many NPs that MD can supervise. So yeah, in Florida, even if you're an NP, you need a medical director.
But you know what, Sarah, being in Florida, we have so many medical spas that are owned by non-plastic surgeon or dermatologists, probably almost all of them. So I don't understand. These laws are just so vague, and people, like, I can't imagine them shutting down all the medical spas in Florida because they're not owned by a plastic surgeon or a dermatologist.
Yeah, Florida is funny because Florida, you need that medical director not for ownership, but for supervision. So ownership-wise, like Dori, you and I can open a medical spa in Florida tomorrow.
Yeah.
It's probably not going to be a very knowledgeable spa in terms of the procedures, because we're going to need some really great clinical providers.
Yes.
But in general, we can open the spa. But to hire NPs, our NPs would need to be overseen by a medical director in Florida.
I see. Oh, great point. Thank you for sharing that info. Yeah, we have someone. We'll take a couple more questions here. I want to be respectful of your time. So go ahead, Julia. We'll take a couple more questions.
And Jay is saying, how do you legally set up and manage the med spa that eventually will expand to other states and have different legal requirements, i.e. ownership, business structure, practice, operational, and management?
I don't know if I'm going to be able to remember all that. That was a long question. But the person is asking, Sarah, what happens if the person opens up in one state and then they want to scale to multiple states? How do you manage the legality aspect of the business if someone is to do that?
Good question. So what happens that in that situation is you usually will have one structure per state or one structure per location. So for example, let's say you're in New York and Florida. So you would have a structure for New York, and then you would have a separate legal entity structure for Florida because they have very different requirements. And then when it comes time to selling your practice, you would just sell all those different entities together. And then on the business side, which I think is extremely important when you're opening up more than one location, I would say you definitely need to work with someone like Dori who can help you make sure you have the processes in place and the paperwork and all the things that are required to run simultaneous locations. Because the business aspect, look, having 2 locations is like going from 1 location to 10, because it multiplies all your issues tenfold, because all of a sudden you're the absentee owner at one of your locations. So because of that, I would say the legal aspects are kind of dwarfed by the business aspects, in my opinion.
Yes, very, very good point. And I would rather, probably to be safer, they probably should scale in their own state first, make it easier on themselves, instead of going to different states initially. And then once you're ready to really go big, then maybe go into, I would grow state by state, I guess, is what I would advise them from a business standpoint, to make it easier on them.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And I mean, I know, and you probably do too, there are people who have one location and that location is doing $5 million in revenue a year.
Yes.
So even before going to saying, it sounds cool when you say I have 10 locations, but if each of your locations is doing 500,000, that may not be better than having one location doing 2.5 million.
Absolutely. Yep. Very good point. And what special advice do you have? One last takeaway that our audience can leave with. The best advice you have, Sarah.
My best advice, I think, is start small and develop a membership program early on.
That's
I
a
guess
very
that's
good
two
advice.
things. But I would say those two things are super important, and
Yeah.
work with a consultant like Dori to develop the membership program. That recurring revenue will make a huge difference, even if you're a tiny practice with just one provider.
Yeah, it does make a huge difference, that's for sure, on the whole business. And my best advice would be is to do their homework. Don't be in a rush to say, oh, this is such a great idea, I'm just going to open up a place, without taking the time to plan properly, to consult with an attorney, to do your business plan, to structure the business properly, to hire the right people, to pay the people the proper way, to have the training that you need to truly set up a successful business. Because if you don't do that, just like I use sports analogies all the time, even professional players go to training. So I think it's a big component of being super successful is to participate with great training so you can grow not only on the clinical side but also in the business side. Because a lot of medical practices, they open up, they focus on the clinical, but they don't really focus so much on the business aspect. Like, how are we going to make money in this practice? And that's the part that I see sometimes missing. But yeah, so that would be. So how would someone get a hold of you? I'm sure we'll leave all of Sarah's information below the video. But again, her company's name is, as you see there, Lengea. So you can go to Lengea. Is it .com or law.com?
It's lengealaw.com, or you could email info@lengealaw.com. You could find us on social media at Lengea Law. We have free consultations that you can schedule with our team that we'd be happy to answer any of your questions. And we, really like to partner with our practices to help people be successful and, really start in a compliant way from the beginning and save yourselves the legal expenses and headaches and sleepless nights later.
For sure. And I would like to invite everyone to do the same thing. If you'd like any business advice, actually you can go either again on our YouTube channel, connect with us, or to InSPArationManagement.com. Once you get there, you can reserve a complimentary success planning session so my team can help guide you as well. So thank you so much for being with us, Sarah. I loved our time together. We're going to have to do this again.
Yeah, this was fun. Thank you, Dori. I'm glad that we were able to do this, and it was really fun to spend some time with you.
Yeah, my pleasure. So if you too would like to be on Meet the Expert, you can go to meettheexperts.com and apply so you can share your knowledge and wisdom with members of our community. So thank you so much for joining us, and until next time, stay inspired. Bye now. Bye, Sarah.
Bye.